So maybe a few of you in here might understand me when I say 我的中文名字是美花，你叫什么? Some of you are like, what are you saying? But if you want to know, then I have some good news for you, because I'm here to tell you today that learning a language is not difficult. The 3 points I'm going to back this up with are that it's less time consuming than you think, it's more manageable, and like I said, less difficult. And in America, you have so many more opportunities to learn languages because of how diverse we are. So regarding time consuming, you think learning a language is going to take all day, every day, you don't have time for it, but in reality, it can only take about 10 to 15 minutes per day. A guy named Dylan Lyons in 2017 in his Babel magazine article, he talks about micro-learning, which is like short quizzes or articles that you use to learn a language. And he says these activities should only take 5 to 15 minutes to complete, and shorter periods of learning have an added bonus of making you more likely to stick with it. This means that it doesn't take all day. This only needs to take 10 to 15 minutes, whatever time you have sitting waiting for a class. You don't have to put so much time into it. Also, you can achieve a lot quicker than you think. A man named Gabriel Weiner in 2012, he documented his progress learning a language. He focused on pronunciation, vocab and grammar, listening, writing, and reading, and speech. He did this for 30 to 60 minutes a day, so a little bit longer, but within a few years, he was fluent in 4 languages, and he was able to reach conversational level of French in only like 5 months. So this is really incredible because when you think about it, he applied himself and he got results. And within a few years, he's able to speak all these languages. So it's easier than you think if you put yourself down and make yourself do the work. And like I said before, my next point is it's more manageable to learn a language and less difficult than it seems. And my first point is that many languages have cognates. Cognates are words that are spelled or sound the same and they mean the exact same thing. So you know, like in Spanish, there's a ton of them, like you just add like IBLE to the end of the word and it means the same thing. And in an article by Schepens, Dijkstra, Grugin, and Van Hoyen in 2013, speakers of Dutch and German, or Spanish and Italian, are able to understand quite a lot of each other's speech. Translation equivalents that overlap in form and meaning may provide help in getting a message across the language barrier. So this happens in English as well. We have tons of cognates with Spanish, with German, with Japanese, and you'd never think about this. There's even an estimate that if you know English, you already know about 10% of the German language. So you're already ahead of most people. Next, I'm going to talk about some grammar. It doesn't have to be as hard as you think it is, even in languages that seem so difficult. Take Chinese, for example. Wei Tung Liang, a Chinese instructor and teaching supervisor at the Business Confucius Institute, University of Leeds, he says a simple Chinese sentence structure consists of subject, predicate, and object. Is the same as English. So like I wash my hands in Chinese is 我洗手. It's the exact same thing. I wash hands. So you think Chinese looks so difficult, so hard, but you already have this grammar built into you from English. You can just apply it easily to another language like Chinese that you thought would be so difficult. And take it from me, I am learning Chinese, so it's really not as difficult as you think. My last point is that in America, we're so diverse and there's opportunities everywhere. Immersion is so easy. Rob Budden in 2015, in his article Secrets of Learning a Language Quickly, he said by conversing regularly with language experts or native speakers, you also have someone to check and correct your progress. So there's people with free knowledge walking around everywhere, and all you have to do is ask them, and they'll help you, they'll correct you, and that's for free. You don't even have to pay for it. And students, you guys also have so many more opportunities as well. I want to share really, to me, a sad statistic from Nikhil Sanad in 2018. His article, Fewer and Fewer U.S. College Students Are Studying Foreign Languages, said from 2013 to 2016, the number of students at American universities enrolled in foreign languages class fell by over 9%. And I think that's a really sad statistic because you have so many opportunities. We have language classes right here, and you guys can go and just take them. It could be like an elective, a side class, it could be your fun class, but you do have those opportunities right here on campus for you. So thank you, and I hope you go learn a language now.
All right, well, let me start with a ding or two here. The proposition has that negative phraseology, and it makes it a little complicated. And I think that some of the people that you cite, especially on the first point, they sound like they are lucky people, wonderful people. I'm glad that they've had this experience. Is it generalizable? That's, I think, a little bit harder to tell. They seem like reasonable examples, but generalizing from examples is problematic if we don't have some follow-up data to show that these things can happen, let's say, at a wider scale. So I think that hurts a little bit. The controversy, I think you kind of talk about it at the end of the speech. It seems to me like that ought to be up front, the notion that fewer students are taking foreign language classes, and that we have, it shouldn't be hard to find some information that suggests that we have a strong need to have a greater diversity of understanding of languages because of business situations or the more diverse economic system that we have. So the trend seems to be running the opposite direction of what the needs are. That would, I think, set up the argument a little bit more effectively. The time consumption thing, the notion that you can learn a language in 10 to 15 minutes a day, like I said, the two examples that you provide us are interesting ones. I just need some follow-up information to show that this is likely or typical. The fact that somebody has managed to do this doesn't necessarily mean that other people would be able to do this. I think it's a good starting point, but like the question that we've talked about this a couple of times, is the evidence sufficient? And I think that's where there's maybe some problem. The second point, there's a bunch of factual data here, none of which gets cited. I believe that you are correct in suggesting that the cognates, there's overlap between parallel languages, and you talk about English and Spanish, for instance, or German, I should say. Having taken German, I know that there is some of that kind of parallel language. On the other hand, I wouldn't begin to think that I speak 10% German, or 10% of what I'm saying would be understood by a German. That's, I think, runs contrary to my experience. And das ist nicht sehr gut. I did like the fact that you start off kind of with the quote yourself, or the phrase yourself in Chinese, that demonstrates a little bit of your own credibility, and I think that helps sell what you're talking about to us, and you do a very good job talking to us as well. You look at us, you sound sincere, there's good variety and enthusiasm in your voice. If you were a salesperson, I think you'd have a very successful career doing those kinds of things, because this is, I think you could convince people that this is true. We just need, like I said, I'm a little bit more skeptical, and I have different standards on the evidence, and that's probably where my hesitation comes into play. All right, thank you.